Welcome to Between the Reads, where Black books are shared and celebrated all year long. I'm your host, Audra Russell. There are so many great things going on this year as I continue to amplify Black stories, but I can't do it without your support. Please consider heading over to patreon.com/betweenthereads and becoming a member, or make a one-time donation at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Are you ready, Boos and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Isis Asare is a serial cultural entrepreneur with over a decade of finance and business development experience at Fortune 500 companies such as T-Mobile, Microsoft, Shutterfly, and Amazon. One of her earliest ventures was Sistah Cinema. Asare started Sistah Cinema in her living room and expanded it to 20 cities across the U.S. and internationally with a social email reach of 10,000 points of contact and online presence with indie flicks within 5 years. She successfully exited Sistah Cinema by selling it to community investors in 2015. Asare officially launched Sistah SciFi on February 2nd, 2019, with the celebration of Jewel Gomez's 25th anniversary edition of the Gilded Stories. Between 2019 and 2020, Sistah SciFi sales increased tenfold through expanding physical book selection, launching private label shirts, sweatshirts, and bags, and offering audiobooks and ebooks. Isis Asare earned her BA in psychology from African American Studies from Stanford University, Master's in Public Policy from Harvard University, and an MBA in International Finance from Columbia Business School. What a mouthful! Welcome, Isis, to Between the Reads.
Thank you. I need a shorter bio. That's what I learned. So
listen, that's a lot. I need people to know that the folks that come on my show are doing things. I love it.
So, thank you.
Yes. So please share with us why you started Sistah SciFi.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So I started Sistah SciFi because I read Lilith's Fruit with a friend. I read Lilith's Fruit. I was discussing it with a friend, and then she was like, "Oh, I'm sure you've heard of Nnedi Okorafor and Tomi Adeyemi." And at the time, I hadn't, and I was in my feels. I felt like I'd missed 2 memos. Like I'd spent my life reading African American literature, and both of those authors are first generation, like Americans with West African heritage, as am I. And I was like, I'm going to read all these books. I'm going to discuss all these books. I don't want anybody else to miss the memo. And at first I was trying to discuss the books with my friends, and then I was like, it might just be easier to befriend people who've read the books, and that was how Sistah SciFi was born.
And Sistah SciFi is a book boutique, right?
Yes, Sistah SciFi is the first Black-owned bookstore focused on science fiction and fantasy in the U.S. Our vision is to double the number of science fiction titles by Black and Indigenous authors on the New York Times bestseller list in the next 20 years. So, yeah.
And how did you come up with the name Sistah SciFi?
Well, if you can tell from my bio, I like businesses that have the name Sistah in it.
I couldn't tell.
You couldn't tell. So that I think that was kind of like a foregone conclusion. And then yeah, so I was like Sistah, and then I like alliteration. So then sci-fi was the next thing. So yeah.
An obvious question, but what kind of books does Sistah SciFi sell?
Great question. So Sistah SciFi focuses on science fiction and fantasy books that at the intersection of Black and Indigenous culture. So primarily most of our titles, particularly right now, are written by Black and Indigenous authors. And all of our titles celebrate Black and Indigenous culture in addition to being science fiction and fantasy reads, and have like either a Black and or Indigenous main character.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And are you solely an online presence, or do you have a brick and mortar store as well?
Great question. So yeah, Sistah SciFi is located in cyberspace. Okay. If people want to connect, we do lots of virtual events, most of which are free. And now that at least there's like a respite in my COVID anxiety. We're starting to do some in-person events. So this summer we're doing a Sistah SciFi Bookish Tea Party Tour, which started in DC, a week ago today, which is really fun. Next stop will be Seattle, we'll be in Phoenix, and then we'll end at the end of June in San Francisco, California.
Okay, so that crosses one of my questions off my list. I was going to ask you about the book tea party tour. So we might circle back to that and get a little more information on it. But tell us about Wind Down Wednesdays and how readers can participate in that.
Sistah SciFi Wind Down Wednesdays. So at the start of this year, last year I was invited to Black Travel Box, their Wind Down Wednesday, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And my social media manager is always like, you need to get in front of the camera. So, so Wind Down Wednesdays is my answer to both those things. And like the name implies, it's really casual. We wind down. I'm not actually drinking wine. I'm usually drinking kombucha in a wine glass. So, yeah. And most of the time I'm talking to a member of the Sistah SciFi community. Last week, not this last Wednesday because I was traveling back from DC to Oakland, but the Wednesday before we talked to Vincent Toronto, who wrote Burn Down, Rise Up, which just came out in May. So we're talking to authors, we're talking to readers, we're talking to filmmakers, but the central theme is like they're doing their creative or readers in Black and Indigenous sci-fi and fantasy. So that's been fun. So that's Sistah SciFi Wind Down Wednesdays. And participate, you just we stream on IG Live, so you just go to our IG page, our Instagram page on your phone, and then you can watch, and then you can interaction during the comments. Through the comments is highly encouraged. Okay, and you also have two book clubs: Sistah SciFi Book Club and Sistah SciFi Graphic Novel Club. Can you share with us more about those? Well, you did your research. Sistah SciFi Book Club. I haven't done it. I was thinking about this. I was like, I have to schedule something. But the Sistah SciFi Book Club, this year we'll be discussing Skin of the Sea. And
love that book.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Skin of the Sea. And oh my God, I'm literally blanking on the second book. But that is okay because I know it's on the website because it's the books in the book bundle. And Noor this year. So I have to schedule those events. So that's the Sistah SciFi Book Club. We started, that was kind of like the start of Sistah SciFi was the Sistah SciFi Book Club. The Graphic Novel Club, we meet, and for the Sistah SciFi Book Club, we meet whenever I decide we meet. So the schedule is pretty random. The Sistah SciFi Graphic Novel Club, which is led by Erica of Fabulized Magazine. So she leads the discussion. She curates the graphic novels. That meets pretty consistently once a month. What I love about it, it's like, because it's usually relatively a small group of people, like we can dive really deep into a particular graphic novel and kind of like dive into all the themes. Like Erica knows everything about Black comics, like from the beginning of time. So every time I go, I learn so much. Last month we discussed Abbott. So both comics, both Abbott and the prequel Abbott 1973, or maybe it's the next book. So that was cool. This month we'll discuss Concrete Library by Erica Alexander. So it's kind of like an indie, like really available book, but just like, how can you not like read something by that Erica Alexander who played Maxine Shaw and Living Single?
Yeah. I just listened to the audio book that she did, Finding Tamika, about the young woman who went missing in Spartanburg, because that was actually near where my grandparents lived, and I remember hearing about that when it happened. So I actually subscribed to Audible just for that because it's exclusively on Audible. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to listen.
I freaked out because I commented on one of her posts the other day and was like, love this, and explained everything. And she commented back and I was like, came undone.
This is a fangirl moment. Yeah. 'Cause,
Yes.
Like, Maxie Shaw was like absolutely everything.
The best.
Everything.
She
With
was
Coffee Cup
my
Relentless.
favorite on Living Single.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So excited to read that. And then we have to like, I think we had events up for Q2, so then I have to put up the events for Q3.
Okay.
So that's the Sistah SciFi Book, and that's been going strong for like, I think we hit the year in March of this year.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned it a little bit. You also offer a book club bundle on your website. So tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, so each year for the past 3 years, 3 years. So started in 2020, we offer like 4 books, the Sistah SciFi Book Club bundle. We used to do it in partnership with another book club, but this year it's Sistah SciFi Book Club bundle. So it's 4 books. You get 20% off retail price. You buy them all together. This year it's Nadia Corfor's Noor, Tim Fielder's Infinitum, Tasha Boland's Skin of the Sea, and then Naomi, which is the graphic novel that the CW Naomi TV show is based off of.
Okay.
So, yeah. And so that's available to the end of this year, and then next year we'll offer something else.
Okay. And let's go back and talk a little bit more about the book tea party tour.
Yeah, the Sistah SciFi Bookish Tea Party Tour. It brings up to like together 2 of the things I really love. I love books and I love tea. Do you like tea? Do you have a favorite type of tea?
I like tea and coffee. My absolute favorite tea is Earl Grey. That's my favorite. Mm-hmm.
That's a great one. I'm a big rooibos chai person, but yeah. So we did our first Bookish tea party in collaboration with Oak Stop, which is our co-working space, and also Oak Stop. Oak Stop is a different entity from the Oakland Black Business Fund, but that's how I got connected with the Oakland Black Business Fund. And they were one of the first like supporters of Sistah SciFi, so I love Oak Stop. Anyway, so we did our first Bookish Tea Party in partnership with them in Oakland, which is why Oakland is not a part of the Bookish Tea Party Tour. Okay. And it's just like, let's get together, sci-fi Black nerds, let's drink some tea, let's connect, and let's be in community, since it's been so hard to be in community since COVID. So the agenda is, and it never quite, the actuality never like hits the agenda, but the intention is we get together, we network, we kiki, then.
She said we kiki.
Then we play Black Card Revoked, which is a lot of fun in DC.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a card game. Some people were close to getting their card revoked. We had to just stop playing.
I need to know what happened that somebody's got their card revoked.
You got to come to a Bookish Tea Party, but yeah. So we were like, we're gonna put this game aside.
Getting dangerous.
So, yeah. Then we didn't actually play Bleverty, but Bleverty is like an app-based game by Jesse Williams, the light-skinned guy.
From Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, exactly. So like you put it on your phone, so that's really cool. We didn't actually get to a DC, but like next time we will. And then we do like something that people really enjoyed in like the Jewel Gomez event was like reading excerpts aloud from the book. So that's also an agenda. And then all throughout we're drinking tea. So in DC, and what will be a thread for all the Bookish tea parties is Calabash Tea and Tonics in DC. They launch an Activia Butler tea, which is like when you brew it, it's like this magnificent purple, and it's just like it tastes like magic. And so that'll be available at all the Bookish tea parties. So yeah. And then,
well, I need to. I'm mad I missed the one in DC. I would have been there so I can get my tea.
I know, and you would have loved it because there was so much discussion about podcasts. So that was my bad. there's somebody like, I'm in DC, and I was like, oh, I have sometimes I have a hard time connecting where people are actually physically located, but the people who came in Calabash Tea was like, you got to come back, so it'll probably be an annual thing. So next time I'm in
yes,
DC,
I will be there.
Yeah,
absolutely. So speaking of Octavia Butler, tell us about the Octavia Butler slow read along that you're doing.
Yeah, so the slow read is actually the brainchild of Jerry Sojourner Campbell. I may be she has like 4 names. I'm missing one. The Jerry Damali Sojourner Campbell.
Okay.
So that is her event. When it started, she collaborated with Sistah SciFi, and details are on the website. But it's a leisurely slow read of all the published works by Octavia Butler. And it started, I think, in 2020. I should know exactly, but I think
it said March on the website of 2020. Yeah.
And then it'll end this year, so it's like, wow. So yeah.
What are you gonna do to replace it?
Maybe reread some of the books or go on to another author, like maybe read everything by like Nayla Hopkinson or N.K. Jemisin. Or,
I would like to do Nayla Hopkinson because I bought a bunch of her books, but I have not read any of them yet.
Okay, so then maybe next is like the Nayla Hopkinson read along. So I think that would be fun. And that would also probably take a couple of years.
Yeah, because she got a lot of books.
She got a lot. I'm actually reading Skinfolk now.
Okay.
I read Brown Girl in the Ring. My favorite is like we did book club discussion of like Midnight Robber. We did like 5. I was like, there's so much to like. And then but there's still a lot to read. I haven't read Falling in Love with Humanoids, Salt Roads. Yeah, so
yeah, I have Midnight Robber. I have Brown Girl in the Ring, and I have there's one more that I have. I can't think of it, but I have 3 by her for sure that I remember. I might have more, but
okay,
definitely 3.
You probably have more, and then also like she has the House of Whispers.
Okay.
Which we discussed in the graphic novel club, but I wasn't at that one.
Okay.
And I was like, how did I miss it? And it's like, it talks about a pandemic and like, it includes like voodoo and hoodoo culture and all that kind of stuff. So I can't wait. So that also, obviously we have to include that in the So so that might be something we kick off sometime this year in the fall. So
okay. Now you had an event called Black to the Afro Future that was in South Africa. I need to know more about this. It sounded amazing.
You're in other things. Okay, Black to the Afro Future. I was in South Africa for Afropunk. It was actually my first time in South Africa, so a friend was like, me and a bunch of friends are going, like, do you want to come through? I'm like, I'm not doing anything for New Year's Eve, but so I went and I was like, well, if I'm out there, I should do, something Sistah SciFi read. And this was like 2019, so Sistah SciFi was also really new. And so in Constitution Hall, we did like a super small film festival, and it just showed like several Black sci-fi shorts, which was just like really amazing and really cool and like awesome, like not just Black, but also like sci-fi shorts set on the African continent. And so that was pretty amazing. I think there were like 20 people there, and like we had a discussion, and it was just, the discussion was really cool. So so that was Black to the Future.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. I haven't done that since, but
this pandemic has been messing everything up. Gosh.
So but the one thing we are doing is we do plan to go to Ghana at the end of this year. So that's where I'll be celebrating New Year's Eve for our Afrofuturism trip to Africa. So that should be fun. It's Sistah SciFi's first international trip. We're planning it with Africa ACC Tours, which is also like a Black woman run company. So that's good. People don't have to worry about me planning logistics. And one of the key highlights, so there are 2 things that are unique about this trip to Ghana. Like one, that it's a celebration of Afrofuturism. 2, that the first 2 days that we're there, we'll be going to Afrochella. This year's
Okay.
like I haven't even sent out the announcement to my community yet, so this is like fresh tea.
Okay.
The theme for Afrocello this year is Afrofuturism. I like to tell people I was part of making that happen, but it actually happened very serendipitously. And the second unique thing is that like most people who go to Ghana go to like Accra, Cape Coast, come back and leave. We're going to Accra, Cape Coast. We're going to northern Ghana because one of the books by Nadia Corp is Remote Control, and it starts in northern Ghana. So you get like for people participating in this tour, you get a broader experience of Ghana. So I'm really excited about that. And so yeah, it's 9 days. I think it's 10 days and 9 nights, or 9 nights, 9 days and 8 nights, or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited about that.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That's like one of my. I wanted to go to Africa for the first time for my 50th birthday, which happened in 2020 in August. So
Right.
didn't get to make it because of the pandemic. We were fresh into it, all of that. Yeah. So my husband and I want to go. We're going to be, our 25th anniversary is coming up in 2 years. So we're like, maybe we'll hit it for our 25th. And with the first place we want to go is South Africa. Like, yeah, I want to see, I want to see Durban.
My parents are from Ghana, so I'm questioning why South Africa, but that's to be.
Well, I also want to go to Ghana. We have a YouTube channel that we follow, and he was like, start without South Africa because this culture is most similar to here as far as the feel of everything.
Oh,
but
right.
I want to go to Ghana too because I want to see the door of no return, and I know there are multiple ones in Africa, but the one in Ghana is the one that I want to go to. So, and eventually, I mean, if I was rich, I would just take like 2 years and just try to travel, because everybody that sees me that's from Ethiopia is like, you're Ethiopian, aren't you? And I'm like, nope. No. And I even took one of the tests, like the DNA tests, and there's like a small part of me that's from just under Ethiopia. And my husband was like, well, that's probably what it is, because I'm like Nigerian and Kenyan and the Gambia. So
That's an interesting mix. Yeah, that's a really interesting. I've been afraid to take a 23andMe because I was like, if I'm anything but like 100%, so I'll be feeling some type of way. So I bought it.
Well,
for
then
my
you wouldn't
sister.
want to see mine, because genetically I'm 74% European. Because
Oh wow!
okay, calm down. I really didn't need all that. Yeah, 35% of that is my grandmother, who is Italian. So my mother is half Italian, half black. But then there's like 17% German that we're trying to figure out where that is from, because I don't know anybody in our family that's, but my daughter was teasing me. She was like, so you're 74% Karen. I was like, watch it. I am not a Karen.
She likes to come for your black card. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article. I can't remember. It was this one was doing like, I think it was like Afrofuturism and fashion, but she starts with like, she did her 23andMe and it was like 60-40, like 60 of the African diaspora and 40% European. But yeah, so that's why I didn't do it, because if yes, so I'd be in my field. So I got it for my sister because I was like, I'll do it for my sister, and if like some of her results come up questionable, I would just say those are genes I didn't get, and then just not ever do this.
Deny.
That's like, I don't know what that is. But she came out like 73% like West African. I mean, which makes sense. Both of our parents are from West Africa. And I think it was like Ghana. It was like Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, or something. I could be like super like loving it up, and I can't remember what the rest was. So yeah.
I was like you said, I was hot. I felt some type of way. I was like, I was expecting 30%, something like that, because of my grandmother. But I wasn't. And the thing was, my dad has always said that his grandmother, my great grandmother, he said she's full-blooded Cherokee. And my husband would always look at her picture and say, that's a white woman. And the thing was, when my DNA test came back, there was absolutely no indigenous DNA whatsoever. So, and he was like, oh, that can't be. I'm like, listen, a lot of, people lied about their race. There was all kinds of trauma and stuff going on. So, if she was a white woman that had a child with a black man, she's not going to tell people she's white. She's, there's probably all kinds of secrets going on back there. But yeah, I felt the way. I was like,
Yeah.
74%.
Wow. Wow.
And yet, anytime we went to an Ethiopian restaurant in Baltimore called Dukem, and the owner came out, and she's looking at me, and she was like, you are Habesha? And I said, no. She was like, I'm Harik. And I was like,
no.
I was like, I'm from New Jersey. She's like, are you? She's like, no. She said, you go get a test. You're Habesha. That's your Habesha. And I was like, I've had a test and I'm not. She's like, yes, no. You are. Yes, you are. Like, they will get mad. I've had Ethiopians get mad at me because they're like, why are you denying your heritage? Like, really, y'all, I would love to be Ethiopian.
Right.
But I'm not. I'm sorry.
Right. I mean, you do look very Ethiopian. I get Senegal all the time.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm here for it, but it's not in my DNA test. But I'm
right.
Like,
right.
I'll go with it. But
Ethiopians. I've seen people. I get it because of the forehead and
and the skin tone.
Yeah. So I'll take it.
But you're like, no, but the only thing here is German.
Right, like German and Italian. That that's all I can say. I don't know. So
that's funny.
Let's talk about your slogan: "Claim your magic, create your future."
And we all say Ashe. Yeah. So, I'm a part of Sister Biz, which is like a global network for Black women entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And each year they have us do like our business design, which includes like, what is your mission? What is your vision? And like all this kind of like brand fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to work on that. And all I could come up with was a slogan, which I love. So I'm still working on my mission. I'm still working on my mission. Don't tell nobody that. It's like been 2 years.
I think a few people might know after the podcast.
Right. It's like, that's why we don't see this as the sci-fi mission though, because I'm still writing it. But so this slogan came up, and it was somewhat inspired by like, Octavia is known to say like, so be it, see to it, kind of like leaving it to the universe, but also like taking the next right action towards whatever that vision is. And I like the rhythm of it and so forth. So it's like, what would be like my version of so be it, see to it, with that same kind of cadence, and then like claim our magic, create our future, like rose from that. And I think it speaks to like what Sister SciFi stands for on a very universal level. So it really is using imagination, using ideation about the future to really step into our power and step into our magic, and creating a better future for ourselves and for the next generation, and that future that really facilitates empowerment and healing. So it's just like, and ending with, and we all say Ashe, which is like very Sankofa, going back for me, like the African continent or our ancestors, and so forth. So it's just like a very good grounding of like what I hope like people who read the books are inspired to do.
Yeah. I've become recently obsessed with Afrofuturism. I read a book by I don't know if she pronounces it Itasha or Waitasha Womack. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
I'd say Utasha, but maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong too.
I have no idea. Sister, if you're listening, please charge it to my head and not my heart. It's Itasha, Waitasha. But I read that book, and it just like is a rabbit hole. And you just start going down the rabbit hole, looking at all the things, like I had heard about Sun Ra, but didn't really know like who he was. And then it opened up other things for me. There were like other epiphanies. I'm just thinking about things like that she mentioned, like Parliament, Funkadelic, and then even like Janelle Monáe's, and I'm like, yeah, I guess all that is Afrofuturism.
It is.
And I just never really connected that. Especially him coming down. I mean, I went to the museum in D.C. and saw the spaceship.
You saw the mothership.
I saw the mothership, and I'm like, never made the connection like Afrofuturism. So I've become obsessed because I love what Afrofuturism is. I love that it creates us in the future unfettered by racism and the limitations that white supremacy has put on us. And I love that because I think that's why I didn't get into a lot of sci-fi books, before, because I never saw like, how do you have a whole future and there's no black people anywhere in sight? Like, how does that happen? And I, after I read her book, I realized, I was like, this is why I don't like a lot of science fiction stuff, because there's nobody in there that looks like us. And like, we built this United States of America. How is it that you're going into a future where there's no black people? And plus, civilization started in Africa. How are we not in the future?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I love Afrofuturism. It's like become one of my favorite genres because of that book. So
yeah. No, and I think there's a billboard that's like, there are black people in the future. And it's crazy that even in 2022, that's a revolutionary thing to say. It's almost as revolutionary to say than it says Black Lives Matter, right? It's like, of course,
right. Like, it's sad that we even have to say that,
Right. But Afrofuturism really like allows a space to think, and like not just like, you read a book and like, and he's chocolate skin, but like our full expression of us is in the future, like, which is why I love reading Nayla Hopkinson's Midnight Robber, because it's in the future, but you have like stuff like the Nano Net, right? And then like stuff that really speaks back to like Caribbean culture and is set in this high tech interstellar future, which I was like, when I read it, was like so amazing. And so like I want both. I want to be like both culturally black and high
futuristic
sci-fi, and Afrofuturism a lot. So I love seeing the mothership. I love Janelle Monáe and how she envisions the future. I'm reading the last story of The Memory Librarian, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe this is the last story.
So you like it? Because I bought it, but I haven't read it yet.
I really enjoy it. So it is like 5 or 6 stories set in the world of Dirty Computer. So if you like Dirty Computer, you'll love that.
Okay.
I think at very least one of the stories is currently in production to go to either, I think it's like a television adaptation. Knock on wood that happens.
Yeah.
Because I think that'll be fabulous. The voices are just kind of interesting. Some end on a cliffhanger, and I'm just like, yo,
hey,
come back and finish the story.
Yeah, I hate cliffhangers, man. Unless I got the next thing on the, in the list, please. The cliffhangers hurt me.
Yeah. So I definitely have a favorite amongst them. Yeah, and I'll save, like, if you want to know who my favorite is, join Sistah SciFi Wind Down Wednesday. This Wednesday, we'll be talking about The Memory Librarian.
Okay.
With Brianna Forbes, who runs Be Too Weird. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I enjoy it. I'm excited. And I'm just, like, excited for increased visibility on Afrofuturism that she did with, but also, like, the intersectionality of what it is to be black and blurred and queer. So she does, and I keep saying they, Janelle Monáe, does
Okay.
a lot of work on like queer identity with the book. So that's
Okay.
also really exciting.
Okay. I need to pull that one down and Midnight Robert down off my shelf and probably
Yes.
try to get those in.
There's
right
so
now.
many, and also like I am not one like somebody like what are books that I should read? To be read lists at this point in my life stress me out. So I'm like,
Right.
you don't have to read anything. Like you can just enjoy your life. But those are books that I'm enjoying right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what do you think is the key to your success? And you know I had to put you in the hot seat for a second.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, oh, I feel all hot. I don't. So I think so. What's showing up for me right now? It's like success. Success is kind of like an elusive and moving target. But I could say like what makes me feel fulfilled and grounded right now is just there's really having a supportive community. Like there's like the Sistah SciFi community, but just like supportive community and like a lot of different ways that hold space for all parts of myself. Like one thing, COVID is terrible. So there are no great things about COVID, but there are great gifts that like shelter in place and having that time to slow down, and really being at like my emotional capacity, like it gave me a lot of time for like deep introspection and like how to show up for like the most vulnerable, like emotionally vulnerable parts of myself that I've been exiling for a long time, and like really facilitated a lot of healing. Like I did like a lot of 12-step work, like just being like very open about, and that just was like very healing for me. And I think I needed to go through that healing to like really step into being a entrepreneur, and it's like really like trusting the universe and really like sitting with like I'm magical and the universe is magical, and step away from just not asking for what I think I could have, but asking and sitting with what I really really want. And so yeah, and just really creating the space for myself and those that I'm close to like ask the big questions and sit with like how our heart's feeling, and so forth. So I don't know if that's success, but right now it just feels very full of intention and power and guidance by my ancestors. So
Okay.
and that's also like if it sounds very woo, I live in Northern California, so blame it on the water. Blame it on the water and my life coach. So
Okay. That did not sound very foo-foo. That sounded very good. It's a very grounded answer. Yes. I think the pandemic for Black people, like you said, there is nothing good about the illness itself. But I really think that the pandemic, in a lot of ways, for Black people was a renaissance. You know, we saw more Black people than ever, and specifically more Black women than ever, starting their own businesses during the pandemic, you know, and we just really flourished because, you know, a lot of us are working from home. And so we're working from home and working on our businesses. And I've seen a lot of people, you know, leave that full-time job and focus on their own business. So it was really a renaissance for us. So yes, there was tragedy, but there was also, you know, like my grandmother always said, you can always find the blessing in every lesson. And that was it for us, you know?
yeah, I'm definitely one of those people, I guess it's part of the great exodus or whatever it's called, who left the full-time corporate job to focus on what was previously a side hustle, and doing it full time like allowed me to tap into like a lot of amazing resources. So like in 2020 I was a part of like a virtual sister biz accelerator. Then I did like a 100K target. I did any Black woman accelerator in the US I applied to. I didn't get accepted to all of them, but I applied to them. So I did a 100K target accelerator. Then I did Self-Made by Britt Morin. Right now I'm in like I Fund Women Caress Dream Fund.
Wow.
I'm in their accelerator. And also like doing like a Feel This Fun, Get Venture Ready, accelerator. So it's like, yeah, so of all the programs, Sister Biz is the space where I always consistently feel the most supported, but each one has allowed me to take Sister Sci-Fi like one step further on the business journey. So, and I think with Shelter in Place and the Standing in Defiance, I don't know if like the opportunities would have been as plentiful for like Black entrepreneurs and particularly Black women entrepreneurs. And so, yeah, we're starting a lot of businesses, but I think we get like 2% of funding.
Yeah.
Like most Black women businesses don't cross the $50,000 in sales mark. So yeah, there's a lot of progress, and then there's also like a lot of struggle. So, but taking it day by day. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So do you feel that it's important for a bookstore owner to be actively involved in the community around them?
Oh, that's such a heavy question. Do I feel that it's important for a bookstore owner to be actively involved in? So yes, but yes in that going back to like I think it's an Alice Walker quote. Is it an Alice Walker quote? I think it's like she says activism is the price she pays, like it's her rent for being a human
Yes.
on the planet. Yeah. So I don't think it's just important for bookstore owners. I think it's important for all of us. Now, that being said, I definitely, like, I keep telling like everybody, my motto for 2022 is ease, right? So the strong Black woman, the superhero Black woman, like we need to put all those tropes to bed. I'm also a big believer in rest. So it's like activism and community involvement, whatever feels of ease to each of us, and like laying down like the should and the obligations, and I have to let's put on our own oxygen mask first, and let's rest, and let's support our community from a place of like mental and emotional and financial abundance, right? And be aware of our boundaries. And no is a very powerful word. Like, no, I do not have the capacity to do that is a beautiful word. So so yes, it's important for booksellers as a human to be important, to be active in their community, and from a place that feels of ease.
So what do you think the future looks like for independent bookstore sellers?
The future looks great.
Elaborate.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really active in the American Booksellers Association, and like the thing is, there's so many ways to like be a bookstore, right? Like as many people as there are, like there's like a different iteration of like bookstores. And like when I started Sister SciFi in 2019, I was like, I didn't set out to be the first Black-owned bookstore focused on science fiction and fantasy. And I was on a meetup, and I'm like, oh, and now I'm not the only, because I was like, somebody's introduction is like, we're Afrofutures bookstore. I was like, oh my God, look at that. There's like another one. Go ahead. But like the way she'll do her Afrofutures bookstore is different from how I'll do mine, right? They're like something I didn't see when I was growing up, like Black-owned bookstores that don't just sell Black content. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's Black-owned, but like it's not just Black content. And that's like probably currently one of the biggest Black-owned bookstores, Tattered Covers in Denver. And it actually was like, I think mostly white owned, and then they got venture capital and took it over, and one of the new owners is Black, right? So that's a new way of thinking about Black bookstore ownership. So I just think like there'll be a lot more diversity in business models for indie bookstores. There's a resurgence of like what the ABA likes to call non-traditional bookstores. So those are bookstores that are like online only or pop-up only, and so forth. Sister SciFi falls in that space. And just making bookstore ownership fit for each individual bookstore owner. And what I've learned in being active in the American Bookstore Association, Black women love brunch, Moscato, and opening bookstores. So there'll be a lot more Black women on bookstores.
That's pretty good. That needs to be a t-shirt for real. Like, I need to see that in the Sistah SciFi bookstore under the lit merch, like, now.
So yes, I think there'll be a lot of different models. For Sistah SciFi in particular, and this may be a question that you'll have, but like, we'll continue to be located in cyberspace. I feel like it just like aligns with our brands. Like, where would a Black-owned bookstore focused on science fiction be located? In the universe.
Right.
But people also like the access and convenience of being able to go someplace today and buy their book today. We do have buy online, pick up, quote unquote, in store.
Okay.
Out of our Oakland fulfillment office in Oak Stop 17 in downtown Oakland.
Okay.
But we're also we signed our lease. We're going to launch our first automated book vending machine in San Francisco, California at the end of this month. So that'll, we're close to finalizing the dates. The exact date should be on Tuesday. But what I'm hoping for is that it'll launch with that Sistah SciFi Bookish tea party in San Francisco. So that's exciting.
So it's just going to be a vending machine with books.
Yes. And some lit merch, but mostly books. Yeah.
Wow. I love it.
I love it too. Yes. We're using Popcorn Technology, and Popcorn is a Black woman owned technology company.
Okay.
Lots of claims to fame, but her biggest one is she was, I think, the first Black woman, or maybe the first woman, or maybe the first entrepreneur to raise like more than $1 million in like a crypto crowdfunding something.
Wow.
So yeah, so a lot of like, so I'm excited to be partnering with her, and it's like somebody we've been following online for like maybe the past 2 years. And so and signed the lease in May, so for the first one. So,
congratulations.
It's coming. Yeah, so that's the future of bookstore, indie book, this indie bookstore.
Okay, I can dig it. Just
so,
go to a vending machine and get a book and get some merch. I love it.
Get the books, and then for we hope to launch another 3 this year, so we're crowdfunding for that in Black and Indigenous owned coffee shops across the country. Okay, so that is a double win. So like, it helps drive foot traffic to those Black Indigenous owned coffee shops. We'll probably pay rent to those Black and Indigenous coffee shops, so it becomes another like low lift revenue stream for those coffee shops. We've identified our first 2 locations, Calabash Tea and Tonic in Washington D.C.
Nice.
So so she's amazing to work with. She said yes. And Mixed Coffee and Community, which is in Mills Creek, which is like 30 minutes north of Seattle, Washington.
Okay. All right. So I might have to take me a trip to DC to Calabash and check it out.
yes. For the machine, and the tea is amazing, and like the staff is great. Everything about Calabash Tea and Tonics is amazing.
All right. Y'all heard it. If you're in Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia, check them out. Check them out.
Yeah.
Yes. So where can readers find you and your bookstore online?
www.sistahscifi.com. Sistah is SISTAH, and sci-fi spelled like SC. Not
SCIFI, not the SYFY. I do not acknowledge that.
So
when the Sci-Fi Channel changed that, I was like, "What's this? No, we're not doing this. No, absolutely not." And where can we find you on social media?
On all the socials, so like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Granted, I'm still really new to TikTok, but we are on TikTok, Tumblr, YouTube, I like Pinterest, and there might be a couple I forgot. It's all Sistah SciFi.
Okay.
So
you everywhere, Sistah SciFi.
Everywhere in the cyberspace, we pop up. So.
All right, I love it. That makes you easy to find, no matter where you are.
We try.
Well, we have come to the end of our show. I want to thank you so much for being here with me today, sharing your time, your talents, and doing all the work to get the Black and Indigenous people sci-fi out into the world. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you for all you do. This has been a blast. It's been so much fun. It was so well researched. I was like, oh dang, I should have studied.
That's what I do. That's that journey. I have a bachelor's in journalism, so the one thing they taught us was you got to do the research before you do the interview. So, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. At Booze and Brews, y'all know how I do. Today's quote comes from the late Marva Collins, a Black American educator and founder of Westside Preparatory School in Chicago. And she said, "Trust yourself. Think for yourself. Act for yourself. Speak for yourself. Be yourself. Imitation is suicide." Until next time, you know what to do. Grab a book and read. And I'm out. You've been listening to Between the Reads. I'm your host, Audra Russell. Thanks for lending me your ear. If you enjoy this content, please consider supporting this independent podcast by becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/betweenthereads or making a one-time donation at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. That's www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Tune in next week for another great episode.